Everyone's favorite Canadian merc with a mouth has a rich history in funny books, games, or on screen. It makes sense that he'd invade Japan and take over the pages of his own manga in Shonen Jump. As always, the transcripts for my essays are available in the description and on my website, witsandpod.com. Heating from the era of pouches, shoulder pads, excessively clenched teeth, and skinny ankles, the character was co-created by writer Fabian Nicieza and artist Rob Liefeld in New Mutants 98 from 1991. Those two would be the most qualified people to talk about the history.
Deadpool was a character that Rob introduced in New Mutants 98. It was the first issue he was going to take over plotting and penciling the book. I was going to be the scripter, so I was working off of his plots. And he had in mind to generate some real excitement right off the bat by introducing 3 new characters in one issue.
Yeah, so the reason there's 3 of them on this not minty copy of New Mutants is I was just like, one of these characters is going to pop, okay? One of them. And I always tell people 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Domino and Deadpool, okay? So the entirety of these pages is New Mutants 98. And they're musty and they're old.
Knowing Rob the way I did then, we talked the character through. I got to understand what some of his influences were in creating and generating the visual look of the character, and decided when I was doing the script that the book needed a counterpoint to Cable's formality and stiffness and rough nature. Yeah. So I made Deadpool a wise ass.
Literally, I have they're mini comics. They're my original mini comics. So this is the original art is long gone, but this is a form of the original art. So I hold on to these. And again, this is kind of how I would take from those 11 by 7, these notes, and then, build the story. It seems like a lot of work, but everybody has their methodology.
We didn't really expect that the fan response was going to be as positive as it was, because we really did think he was kind of a fun throwaway physical threat to the characters, right? But the response was really, really positive immediately. This was pre-internet, pre-message board days, so we'd actually get handwritten letters come in, and we would get stacks of handwritten letters this high. And everybody was saying how much fun the character was, and they want to see him again.
In 2019, Marvel and manga publisher Shueisha collaborated to publish 7 short manga stories featuring Marvel characters in Shonen Jump Plus. Deadpool first appeared in manga form in Marvel Cross Shonen Jump Plus Super Collaboration number 5. That's a long title. Skip that. The short story from 2019 and the actual series from 2020, both called Deadpool Samurai, are written by Sanshirō Kasama with art by Hikaru Uesugi. Both of the Deadpool Samurai creators are relatively new, with one other book they've produced together. Before 2020, the manga was released exclusively in Japanese until Viz published the series in 2 volumes in English. The original Deadpool Samurai story is 33 pages and set in feudal Japan. It starts off with a lone wolf and cub gag as DP is wheeled out in a baby cart before fighting bad guys. It features a cameo by everyone's favorite short hairy Canadian mutant. No, not that one. Yeah, there we go. According to writer Sanshirō Kasama, he wanted to tell a story that focuses on the heart of the character, rather than something large in scale. Quote, "There's really a lot of appeal for Deadpool. He breaks the fourth wall and talks to us, and there's always a mixture of laughter and something grotesque. He'll kill or defeat the character who readers love to hate, and especially, my favorite point is that he teases the ideal of justice or something like it with humor. But he still trusts his own justice." The story itself isn't game-changing, but the execution and energy of the story is engaging and opens the character up for a new audience. Bare bones story is that Iron Man essentially bribes Deadpool with a stupid amount of money to lead a new Avengers team in Japan called Samurai Squad, which only has one other member on it at first. There's a spider-themed heroine called Sakura Spider, who DP spends the entire series calling knockoff Spidey. One of his recruits is Niro Aratabi, a Japanese idol and host of a symbiote named Kage. The Samurai Squad is made up of characters who look like this. Sakura Spider is pretty generic and straightforward, but Niro is kind of interesting and actually has layers to her character. More on her later. Captain America, Hulk, and a well-known Shonen Jump character join over the course of the series. One of the benefits of having stories published in Shonen Jump is that they can have All Might from My Hero Academia show up to fight Thanos for a story. In the scenes with All Might, My Hero Academia creator Kohei Horikoshi draws his own character. It's a sudden but welcomed cameo. Deadpool admits that he's had the mangaka locked up in his basement, which is why the cameo was possible. The fact that Samurai Squad is a ragtag group of bootleg characters led by Deadpool feeds into his haywire nature. This characterization of Deadpool shows him as a greedy, self-serving gun-for-hire who has to learn to help others instead of saving his own skin. As the series goes on, his Samurai Squad collects new members while trying to foil Loki's plan to destroy Japan. I won't spoil it, but the reason behind his plan is petty and connects to Thor. In the end, Deadpool realizes his worst enemy is himself, meaning he really has to fight the worst version of himself possible. With his trademark fourth wall breaking, Deadpool will criticize readers for flipping the page too quickly, scolding them for not taking time to admire the art that took an assistant 3 days to draw. Deadpool will get impaled and his black inky blood will bleed onto the other page, covering up the artwork. Random pages will start looking like American superhero comics for certain fight scenes. This manga does its own thing while having flavors of Deadpool in other media and his comics history. It also pokes fun at American comics, leaving snarky notes about how text boxes and margin notes are needed to understand the stories in American comics, or how they're over-reliant on dialogue and exposition. An idea was teased in this where DP wanted to fight Marvel editorial. If there's ever a third volume, having him fight the powers that be at Marvel and Shonen Jump would be fun. There is a kind of Fumetti follow-up about this at the end of the series, but it's a blink and you'll miss it moment. Niro Aratabi actually adds a fascinating layer of commentary in terms of Japanese pop culture, especially the country's relationship with idols. Having her have a symbiote is oddly appropriate for her character, seeing how there is a kind of symbiotic relationship between the idol industry and fans in Japan. The idol life and industry is a lot more aggressive in comparison to the West. Celebrities in the West are in the public eye, but can generally do as they please, with exceptions. Japan takes fandom with idols to more extreme lengths, if not dysfunctional and unhealthy ones. Idols are essentially supposed to project a fantasy of availability to fans. They have their lives micromanaged and are often forbidden from having relationships that can inspire jealousy in the audience members who support them. It's disconcerting because it feeds that dysfunctional idea that media figures are like objects to be owned by audiences. So, in order to maintain their audience, idols are pressured to structure their lives to feed this dysfunctional fantasy. While Deadpool makes references to Marvel movies and comics and breaks the fourth wall, the fascinating aspects of this manga is how it handles its social commentary. There are scenes where DP pushes against the idol industry and creepy fans. Niro deals with creeps at her events who represent the situation and feel ownership over idols, except in this story her symbiote can just eat them when she's in danger. The strengths of this series come from when it leans into Japanese culture while using the Marvel mythos, rather than just showing characters like Loki and Thanos in manga form. Deadpool is quick to comment on how dysfunctional fandom can be. Wade Wilson is a mercenary, which means he's not a Boy Scout, but he does have standards and doesn't tolerate obsessive creeps and ticket scalpers. This series does actually heavily reference past relationships from the comics, like Deadpool and Loki's frenemy relationship, Wade's idealization of Captain America, and the fact that DP stole death from Thanos. I said I wouldn't spoil Loki's plan, but it fits into the cultural context of the story. Loki wants to destroy Japan because Thor became addicted to anime and won't fight him anymore, which is why the God of Thunder is missing from the Avengers scenes. This manga is fast-paced, shameless about its fan service to manga readers, but tries to add something new. If it was able to push the envelope and dive into censorship and Japanese culture a little bit more, it would have been perfect. But this manga knows what it is, and it's not trying to reinvent the wheel. I've talked about other manga in previous essays, including Vagabond by Takahiko Inoue and the Lost 70s Hulk manga. The Vagabond one is officially the best video essay about Inoue's manga. The Hulk one dives into other Marvel manga adaptations too, so I recommend it as a companion to this essay. The interviews with the DP creators are linked in the description. As always, the full transcripts for each of my essays along with my videos are available for perusal on my website, witsandpod.com. If it's not on my website, it's not me. Share these essays around. The next one will be all about that issue of John Byrne Alpha Flight with the blank pages. Chaos ensues.